A desperate plea. In the depths of unexplored space, the crystalline Zephyrian refugee fleet drifted in a desperate search for sanctuary. For cycles, they had fled the relentless pursuit of the insectoid Krath, a ruthless species bent on exterminating the peaceful Zephyrians. With their resources dwindling and their ships battered, hope was fading fast. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, the Radiant Hope, Chancellor Xylon stared wearily at the star charts. The once vibrant glow of his crystalline skin had dulled to a faint shimmer, the weight of his people's plight taking its toll. Suddenly, the comm panel chimed with an incoming transmission. "Chancellor, we're receiving a signal on an unknown frequency," the comm officer reported, her voice tinged with a mix of fear and cautious optimism. Xylon's eyes widened. "Put it through." The view screen flickered to life, revealing an alien creature unlike any the Zephyrians had encountered. It was Bictal, with a sturdy frame and a face that seemed to radiate determination. When it spoke, the words were strange and guttural, yet somehow conveyed a sense of strength and purpose. "Greetings," the alien said, its voice translated through the ship's systems. "I am Captain Thalia Vance of the United Earth Ship Endeavor. We received your distress signal and stand ready to assist." Xylon felt a surge of emotion he hadn't experienced in a long time. "Hope," he replied in the formal tones of his people. "I am Chancellor Xylon of the Zephyrian Exodus. We are grateful for your offer of aid, Captain Vance. Our people are facing annihilation at the hands of a merciless foe. We have nowhere else to turn." Over the next several hours, the human crew worked tirelessly to establish communication protocols and learn what they could of the Zephyrians' plight. The insectoid Krath, it seemed, had declared war on the Zephyrians, viewing their peaceful nature as weakness to be exploited. Entire Zephyrian worlds had fallen, their once gleaming crystal cities reduced to rubble. As Thalia listened to Xylon's tale, a fierce resolve burned within her. The humans had faced their own share of hardships and conflicts, but they had always stood firm against tyranny and oppression. She knew in her heart that they could not stand idly by while an entire species faced extinction. "Chancellor Xylon," Thalia said, her voice steady and strong, "on behalf of the United Earth Alliance, I pledge our support to your people. We will do everything in our power to protect you from the Krath and help you find a new home." Xylon bowed his head, the light of his skin pulsing with gratitude. "Thank you, Captain Vance. Your words bring us more comfort than you can possibly know." As the transmission ended, Thalia turned to her crew, her eyes blazing with determination. "All right, people, we have a new mission. We're going to escort the Zephyrians to the nearest human outpost and provide them with whatever assistance we can. I want all departments ready for action. We don't know what the Krath are capable of, but we'll be damned if we let them lay a finger on our new allies." The bridge erupted in a chorus of "Aye, Captain," as the crew set to work, their resolve unbreakable. They knew the road ahead would be perilous, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay in store. For in that moment, a bond had been forged between two species, an alliance born of compassion and courage in the face of unimaginable adversity. Together, they would stand against the darkness, a beacon of hope in a galaxy consumed by fear and strife. Unexpected saviors. The journey to the remote human outpost was fraught with tension and uncertainty. The Zephyrian refugee fleet, battered and weary, limped through the void under the watchful escort of the UES Endeavor. Captain Thalia Vance maintained a vigilant watch, knowing that the insectoid Krath could emerge from the darkness at any moment. As the fleet approached the outpost, nestled among the asteroid belt of a long-dead star, the Zephyrians couldn't help but marvel at the rugged utilitarian design of the human structures. Where Zephyrian architecture was all graceful curves and shimmering crystals, the human outpost was a fortress of metal and rock, built to withstand the harshest conditions imaginable. Chancellor Xylon and a delegation of Zephyrian leaders accompanied Thalia and her crew as they disembarked onto the outpost's main hangar. The heavy tread of the humans' magnetic boots echoed through the cavernous space, a stark contrast to the light, almost ethereal steps of the Zephyrians. "Welcome to Outpost Theta," Thalia said, gesturing to the bustling activity around them. "It may not be much to look at, but it's one of the most secure facilities in this sector. You'll be safe here while we repair your ships and resupply your fleet." Xylon nodded, his crystalline features etched with a mix of gratitude and concern. "We cannot thank you enough for your hospitality, Captain Vance. But I fear that nowhere is truly safe from the Krath. They will stop at nothing to see us eradicated." Thalia placed a reassuring hand on Xylon's shoulder, surprised at the strange, almost musical hum that seemed to emanate from his crystalline form at her touch. "The Krath have never faced anything like humanity before, Chancellor. We're a tough bunch, forged in the crucible of a world that didn't make survival easy. If they come for you here, they'll find out just how tough we can be." As the Zephyrians were escorted to their temporary quarters, they couldn't help but marvel at the feats of human engineering that surrounded them. The outpost's life support systems, designed to withstand the punishing conditions of deep space, hummed with a reassuring efficiency. The armored bulkheads and reinforced viewports spoke of a species that had learned to survive in the face of unrelenting adversity. But even as the Zephyrians began to allow themselves a glimmer of hope, the craft struck with a fury that shook the very foundations of the outpost. Alarms blared as Thalia and her crew raced to the command center, their faces grim with determination. On the view screens, a fleet of Krath warships emerged from the asteroid belt, their chitinous hulls bristling with weapons. They descended upon the outpost like a swarm of enraged hornets, their energy weapons sizzling through the void. But the humans were ready. The outpost's defenses, designed to repel the most determined of assaults, sprang to life. Kinetic barriers shimmered into existence, absorbing the brunt of the Krath onslaught. Pulse cannons and missile batteries roared in response, their shots tearing through the Krath ships with a savagery that left the Zephyrians stunned. Thalia barked orders to her crew, her voice cutting through the chaos like a laser. "Concentrate fire on their lid ships. Don't let them get a foothold." The humans fought with a ferocity and skill that the Zephyrians had never witnessed. They moved with a speed and precision that seemed almost impossible for beings of their size and strength, their actions driven by a lifetime of conditioning in Earth's punishing gravity. In a matter of minutes, the Krath assault was repelled, their ships reduced to shattered husks drifting lifelessly through the void. The Zephyrians watched in awe as the humans celebrated their victory, their laughter and shouts of triumph echoing through the command center. Thalia turned to Xylon, her eyes blazing with a fierce pride. "That, Chancellor, is what happens when you mess with humanity. We don't start fights, but we sure as hell finish them." Xylon could only nod, his voice thick with emotion. "Indeed, Captain Vance, indeed." But even as the humans and Zephyrians savored their momentary respite, they knew that the Krath would not be so easily deterred. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. And as the two species looked to the stars, they knew that they would need every ounce of their combined strength and determination to survive the trials that lay ahead. The pursuit. In the aftermath of the Krath assault on Outpost Theta, an uneasy calm settled over the station. The Zephyrian refugees, shaken by the ferocity of the attack and the sudden revelation of humanity's martial prowess, found solace in the tireless efforts of the human crew as they worked to repair the damage wrought by the battle. But even as the Zephyrians began to acclimate to their temporary sanctuary, a sense of dread hung heavy in the recycled air. They knew that the Krath would not rest until they had been hunted down and eradicated, their commitment to genocide absolute and unwavering. Their fears were soon realized as long-range sensors detected a massive Krath invasion fleet entering the system, its numbers dwarfing the force that had been so decisively repelled at the outpost. The chitinous hulls of the Krath ships seemed to fill the void, a swarm of destruction bearing down upon the beleaguered defenders with inexorable purpose. In the command center, Captain Thalia Vance and Chancellor Xylon stood side by side, their faces etched with grim determination as they surveyed the tactical displays. The odds were stacked against them, the craft fleet outnumbering the combined human and Zephyrian forces by a staggering margin. "We can't hope to defeat them in a straight fight," Philia said, her voice tight with tension. "But we can buy time for the Zephyrians to escape. If we can draw the craft away from the outpost, the refugee fleet might just have a chance." Xylon's crystalline features shimmered with a mix of gratitude and despair. "Captain Vance, your people have already risked so much for us. We cannot ask you to sacrifice yourselves for our sake." Philia shook her head, a fierce smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "You're not asking, Chancellor. We're offering. This is what we do. We stand up to bullies and tyrants, no matter the cost. And right now, there's no bigger bully in the galaxy than the craft." With a heavy heart, Xylon accepted Thalia's offer, and the human crew sprang into action. As the Zephyrian refugee fleet prepared to depart, the human defenders took up positions around the outpost, their ships bristling with weapons and their faces set with unwavering resolve. The craft fleet swept in like a plague of locusts, their weapons flashing through the void with malevolent purpose. But the humans met them head-on, their ships darting and weaving through the craft formations with a speed and agility that belied their rugged utilitarian design. Philia led the charge, her ship a beacon of defiance amidst the chaos of the battle. She pushed her crew to their limits, demanding every ounce of skill and determination they possessed as they fought to keep the craft at bay. Over the course of hours that felt like an eternity, the battle raged, human ships waging a ferocious guerrilla campaign against the implacable might of the craft. Explosions lit up the void as the humans unleashed devastating barrages of fission warheads and kinetic projectiles, while cleverly positioned space mines and gravitational anomalies sowed confusion and disarray among the enemy ranks. But for every craft ship that fell, two more seemed to take its place, and the human losses began to mount. One by one, the defenders were whittled away, their heroic sacrifices buying precious time for the Zephyrian fleet as it fled deeper into the star system. Even as all seemed lost, the humans refused to surrender, fighting with a tenacity that struck fear into the hearts of their insectoid foes. Among the chaos, a craft boarding party managed to breach the hull of Thalia's ship, swarming through the corridors with murderous intent. In a desperate gambit, Philia ordered her crew to evacuate, staying behind to buy them the time they needed to escape. She fought with the skills honed by a lifetime of training and conditioning, her augmented strength and lightning reflexes more than a match for the craft boarders. But even her prodigious abilities could not hold out forever against the sheer weight of numbers, and she soon found herself surrounded, beaten, and subdued. As the craft dragged her through the ruins of her ship towards the waiting hive of their fleet, Philia's thoughts were not of her own fate, but of the Zephyrians, and the hope that her sacrifice had not been in vain. She could only pray that the precious time she and her crew had bought would be enough for the refugee fleet to escape to safety. For in that moment, even as the darkness closed in around her, Philia Vance knew that she had upheld the highest ideals of her people, to stand firm in the face of tyranny, to fight for those who could not fight for themselves, and to never ever surrender in the face of evil, no matter the cost. Aboard the craft hive, the stench of the craft hive ship was overwhelming, a miasma of alien pheromones, and the acrid tang of ammonia that burned Thalia's lungs with every shallow breath. She had been dragged through the labyrinthine corridors of the ship for what felt like hours, her captors chittering and hissing in their strange, discordant language as they roughly hauled her deeper into the heart of the vessel. Now, she found herself strapped to a cold, metallic table, the restraints biting into her flesh as the craft scientists loomed over her, their compound eyes glittering with a mix of curiosity and malice. They probed and prodded at her, their spindly appendages tipped with all manner of strange and unsettling instruments. But Philia was not one to be easily cowed. Even in her dire circumstances, she remained defiant, her eyes blazing with an unquenchable fire as she strained against her bonds. The craft seemed almost taken aback by her resilience, their antennae twitching in agitation as they redoubled their efforts to break her. They subjected her to all manner of torture and interrogation, their methods growing more cruel and sadistic with each passing hour. They pumped her full of strange drugs and chemicals, seeking to erode her willpower and extract the secrets of her people. But Thalia's resolve remained unbroken, her augmented body and iron will allowing her to endure the worst of the Krath's ministrations. In a moment of desperation, the Krath resorted to more drastic measures, releasing a potent nerve toxin into the air around her. The toxin was designed to paralyze and kill, its effects swift and merciless. But to the Krath's shock and horror, regrouping. The Zephyrian refugee fleet emerged from the chaotic escape at outposts that are battered but unbroken, their ships limping into the orbit of a sprawling human colony world. The colony, a testament to humanity's tenacity and engineering prowess, was a hive of activity, its spires and domes rising from the planet's rugged surface like a beacon of hope amidst the darkness of space. As the Zephyrian ships docked at the massive orbital stations, Chancellor Xylon and his people were met with a sight they had never before witnessed, a world teeming with humans of every shape, size, and color, united in their diversity and their unwavering commitment to the defense of their species. The colony's leaders welcomed the Zephyrians with open arms, their faces etched with a mix of compassion and steely determination. They had received word of the sacrifices made by Captain Thalia Vance and her crew, and they understood all too well the weight of the decision that now lay before them. In the Grand Council chambers of the colony, human and Zephyrian leaders alike gathered to decide the fate of their two species. The humans, for all their martial prowess and indomitable spirit, knew that a war with the Krath would be a costly and bloody affair, one that could very well spell the end of their civilization. But as they debated and argued, a voice cut through the din, commanding the attention of all present. It was the voice of Captain Thalia Vance, battered and bruised but alive, having made her way back to the colony in a stolen craft shuttle. She spoke of her time aboard the Krath High ship, of the horrors she had witnessed and the secrets she had uncovered. She spoke of the Krath's vulnerabilities, of the weak points in their society and technology that could be exploited. And she spoke of the indomitable spirit of humanity, of the courage and self-sacrifice that had seen them through countless trials and tribulations. As Thalia's words washed over the assembled leaders, a change began to take hold. The Zephyrians, so long accustomed to pacifism and retreat, found themselves stirred by the humans' passion and resolve. They looked upon the humans with new eyes, seeing in them not just a species of warriors and survivors, but a people who embodied the very best of what sentient life could be. In a gesture of unity and trust, the Zephyrians offered up their most closely guarded secret, the technology behind their advanced shields and defensive systems. They knew that the humans, with their inexhaustible ingenuity and adaptability, could take this technology to new heights, creating a bulwark against the Krath that would be nigh impenetrable. The humans, for their part, were humbled by the Zephyrians' gesture, seeing in it a sign of the unbreakable bond that had been forged between their two species. They vowed to honor that bond, to stand with the Zephyrians against the darkness that threatened to engulf them all. As the council adjourned and the preparations for war began in earnest, Thalia sought out Chancellor Xylon in a quiet moment amidst the bustle and chaos. The two leaders, human and Zephyrian, looked out upon the stars, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of what was to come. "We will stand with you, Chancellor," Thalia said, her voice soft but unwavering, "until the end, whatever that may be." Xylon placed a hand on Thalia's shoulder, feeling the strange, alien warmth of her skin even through her uniform. "And we with you, Captain. In unity, there is strength. In solidarity, there is hope." Together, they returned to their duties, their hearts filled with a newfound sense of purpose and determination. For though the road ahead would be fraught with peril and sacrifice, they knew that they would face it as one, human and Zephyrian, united in their resolve to forge a brighter future for all the sentient beings of the galaxy. Turning the tide. The journey to the Krath home system was one of grim determination and unbreakable unity, Aboard the human-Zephyrian Joint Strike Fleet, soldiers and technicians of both species worked side by side, adapting their technologies and tactics to create a fighting force unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The human ships, once rugged and utilitarian, now shimmered with the luminescent sheen of Zephyrian shield technology, their hulls and superstructures reinforced with the near-indestructible crystal matrices that were the hallmark of Zephyrian engineering. The Zephyrian ships, in turn, bristled with the fearsome weaponry and advanced targeting systems of their human allies, their graceful forms transformed into instruments of war and retribution. At the head of this mighty armada stood Captain Thalia Vance, her once battered body now healed and augmented by the most advanced human and Zephyrian medical technologies. She stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Retribution, her eyes fixed on the viewscreen as the fleet emerged from hyperspace on the outskirts of the craft system. Before them lay a sight that would have struck terror into the hearts of any lesser species, a vast swarm of craft ships and orbital defenses, their chitinous hulls glinting in the cold light of the system's dying star. But to Thalia and her crew, it was a sight that only stirred their resolve and their hunger for justice. The battle that followed was one of legend, a conflagration of fire and fury that lit up the void like a second sun. The human Zephyrian fleet tore into the craft defenses with a savagery and precision that defied belief, their weapons and shields working in perfect harmony to shatter the enemy's lines and sow chaos and destruction in their wake. At the forefront of the charge was Thalia herself, her ship a beacon of righteous fury amidst the chaos of the battle. She pushed her crew to their limits and beyond, demanding every ounce of skill and courage they possessed as they carved a path of destruction through the heart of the craft war machine. Against all odds, the human Zephyrian fleet broke through the craft defenses, their ships battered and scorched but unbroken. They descended upon the craft homeworld like avenging angels, their weapons raining fire and ruin upon the planet's surface, until the once proud craft cities lay in ruins and the skies were choked with the ashes of the dead. In the final moments of the battle, the craft queens, the architects of their species' genocidal crusade, emerged from their subterranean bunkers in a desperate bid for survival. But they found themselves face to face with Thalia and her strike team, the human warrior's eyes blazing with a fire that spoke of the countless lives that had been lost in the name of the craft's insatiable hunger for conquest. In that moment, the queens knew that they had lost, that the fury and determination of the Deathworlders and their Zephyrian allies had shattered their dreams of galactic domination beyond repair. They sued for peace, offering up their unconditional surrender in exchange for the survival of what remained of their species. As the guns fell silent and the smoke began to clear, Thalia and Chancellor Zelon stood side by side amidst the ruins of the craft capital, their faces streaked with the grime and sweat of battle, but their eyes alight with the joy of hard-won victory. Around them, human and Zephyrian soldiers alike raised their voices in celebration, their shared triumph a testament to the unbreakable bond that had been forged between their two species. They had fought and bled and died together, and in doing so, they had secured a future for their people and for all the sentient beings of the galaxy. As Thalia looked out upon the cheering crowds, her heart swelled with a sense of pride and purpose that she had never before known. For in that moment, she knew that she had been a part of something greater than herself, that she had helped to forge a legacy that would endure long after she was gone. And as the human Zephyrian fleet began the long journey back to their homeworlds, the promise of a brighter future shining like a beacon in their hearts, Thalia knew that the sacrifices that had been made would not have been in vain. For in the end, it had been the strength and courage of the Deathworlders, tempered by the wisdom and compassion of their Zephyrian allies, that had saved the galaxy from the darkness that had threatened to engulf it. The road ahead would not be easy, for there would always be new challenges and new threats to face. But as Thalia looked to the stars, she knew that they would face them together, human and Zephyrian, united in their determination to build a better future for all the sentient beings of the galaxy. And in that unity, she knew that they would find the strength to overcome any obstacle, to triumph over any foe, and to forge a destiny that would be remembered for generations to come.